The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, it's one of my favorite days.
Hump Day.
Marquette University Law School polling day, my friend.
Oh, yeah, that too.
We're going to have a fine guest in the happy hour, Charles Franklin. He is the director of the MU Law School poll, and he will join us in the happy hour, 5:05. Stick around. It will be a big show, and it starts bigly right now. We got a fine guest. He joins us from the top. He is our friend, Scot Ross, Executive Director, One Wisconsin Now. Scott, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Happy Wednesday, gentlemen.
Hey, Scott.
Or Larry Vaughn. Who is
Yes.
Larry Vaughn, Scott Ross, and why would you wear a name tag labeling yourself Larry Vaughn?
The reason you saw me with a name tag that said Larry Vaughn is because I like to remind people of the importance of voting in local elections. And Larry Vaughn was the mayor in Jaws, who in Jaws 2 was still the mayor, and it was long enough that he had gone through a re-election. So he kept the beaches open in the first one, and he was re-elected after that. So if you don't think local elections matter, somebody's going to come take a bite out of your ass.
Come on, Scott. We all make mistakes.
We do indeed.
Is it possible that Larry Vaughn coordinated with outside third-party groups during his campaigning, or possibly was Larry Vaughn, much like the governor of the state of Wisconsin, just a big whore for the NRA? And Scott, would that have perhaps made both Larry Vaughn and Scott Walker appealing as a target for Russian spies?
Well, what I would say is this. Larry Vaughn was definitely in the pocket of big fish. As far as being in the pocket of the NRA, like Scott Walker is, I do not know about that. But you are absolutely right. Obviously, Scott Walker Scott Walker has had a longer relationship with the NRA than he actually has with being on the taxpayer dime as an elected official. Because one of the things we've seen all this stuff going on with Russia, and Scott Walker's meeting with an indicted Russian spy. And just so you know, you should start calling him Governor Kodunki, because that is the Russian translation for the word Walker.
Kodunki?
Kodunki.
Kodunki. Excellent.
Yes. I know that because I looked it up on the internet, not because I allegedly took Russian in college like Scott Walker now claims.
Oh, wait. Scott Walker is claiming he took Russian in college.
Yeah, that's
of course,
how he
he
was
addressed
able to greet
Maria
the
Butina.
indicted Russian spy
Yes.
in her native tongue whilst he was campaigning at the NRA for president.
Now, presumably that took some forethought, right, Scott? I mean, how would he know that this is a Russian gun supporter?
Wait. I got to go back to the original question. Has anyone checked with the Marquette University transcript? I would need to see proof that this man took any elective like Russian on his way to a higher degree and being a corrupted politician, Scott.
I think that you should ask your guest later, Charles Franklin, to get to the bottom of what goes on at Marquette University.
I wonder if he knows somebody.
You got a key, Charles?
So back to the other question at hand, man. I know I so rudely interrupted, Scott.
No.
Larry, if you will. I apologize.
We posted this on because we wanted to make sure that everybody saw that we had a record of it. It's up on our website, onewisconsinnow.org. It's our first press release. It literally shows the page of Scott Walker's campaign finance report from his first successful campaign for the state house back in 1993. The actual the first contribution Scott Walker ever got from the NRA Political Victory Fund, $250, June 2nd, 1993. And the thing to remember at that time, like, that was half of what you could give if you were a PAC to a state assembly candidate here in the state of Wisconsin. And just think about that. He has, because Walker's running and dancing all over the place, like he just happened to somehow be in a place, that the NRA was at, and that this Russian infiltrator to the NRA, it's all just this big coincidence, and everybody's just, picking up daffodils and daisies, and lo and behold, you're in the room getting a present from a now indicted Russian spy. The fact is that Scott Walker has had this relationship with the NRA for 25 years, more than 25 years. They've given him over $3.5 million of support for his races for governor and in the assembly. And the fact is that the NRA was working with the Russians to try and rig the election. Scott Walker participated in that in the way that he interacted with this, with this Russian spy, and he owes us a lot more answers to the questions than he's been giving, which are just laughable on their face.
Scott, I've always thought that Scott Walker, so adoring of the NRA, because that's probably the only A+ rating he ever earned, sir.
Oh, sing. Very good. It's very, very good. I mean, the thing is like, Scott Walker is a transitional politician. There is no doubt about it. He is the most transactional politician in our state's history, even more so than Tommy Thompson. And he's claiming these coincidences that just happened. I want to know how a 26-year-old who works for the Russian government gets into a VIP area with Scott Walker at an NRA event, and then how she ends up at his announcement for president, here in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
You know what? The Devil's Advocates didn't get invited to the presidential campaign launch. I was at the budget signing, when he signed off on the crap budget like a day or two before. I was at that event, but couldn't get to the big presidential launch. Yet there's the Russian spy taking photos and posting on the social mediums.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all referenced in that FBI affidavit. And he and his spokespeople have, for one day refused to say whether or not that was him or not, who's referenced in the affidavit. And, I hope that it's not a one-off. I hope that people will continue to ask him these questions, because he needs to answer these questions, because this is all tied together to the greatest violation of elections in the history of the United States of America, one in which, the person who's in the Oval Office conspired with the Russian government to essentially steal our elections. And Scott Walker was meeting with them. And again, remember at that time, like, this is before his 71-day flameout. This is when he was literally at the top of the political world, because he was the front runner. The polls showed him doing incredibly well in Iowa at that time, which is always the first bellwether, and so there is a reason that she was targeting, that this Russian spy was targeting Scott Walker for intel and information, and it was because they were trying to sidle up to who they thought would be the next president of the United States of America. And so this is real serious stuff. And Scott Walker can't, he cannot be allowed to simply get away with saying, the same old thing that he always says, which is, don't believe your lying eyes. I'm going to tell you what happened. I am, normally the kind of politician that will say and do anything to win an election. And even though you see me sitting with an indicted Russian spy, I really, really was just like sort of catching up, and it's just a big coincidence that she showed up at my announcement for president in Wisconsin, where lots of folks from Russia end up in Wisconsin. I can only think of one, and that's Strozek from the immortal 1975 Werner Herzog classic film.
You've lost me. Scot Ross, Executive Director, One Wisconsin Now. Scott, in all sincerity, predicated on Scott Walker's history as effectively a corrupt politician, and you bring light to the fact, but let's not forget he was breaking campaign finance laws when he was coordinating with third-party groups in direct violation of precedent and campaign finance laws in the state of Wisconsin. That's all been codified by our corrupted Wisconsin Supreme Court. But based upon his track record, Scot Ross, do you have any doubt if Scott Walker had been a stronger presidential candidate, it would have been Scott Walker colluding with the Russians, and we'd be talking about the Mueller probe of Scott Walker's presidency right now?
I have no doubt in the world.
Scott, Journal Sentinel reporting today. As we go to events, we meet people, they introduce themselves. They often ask for a picture, and that's not a meeting. A meeting is where you sit down in a room and have a discussion. This is what he said today in Appleton, according to Patrick Marley in the Journal Sentinel, regarding this meeting with this alleged Russian spy. A little background, the Russian spy held without bond, perhaps a flight risk. She's sitting her ass in jail right now. Another point I would like to make, Scott Walker, according to Butina's Facebook account, in the reporting in Mother Jones, Scott Walker addressed Maria Butina in Russian. Now, presumably that means there was some sort of setup, there was some sort of introduction. How would Scott Walker know to address this person in Russian if he didn't have a handler or some sort of process telling him to do so? Do you think that that aside, you know how these things are, Scott. We've been to them. You get in the hall, you get a picture sometimes. Do you think that this is going to be anything that sticks? Are there more questions that you have that have not yet been answered from Governor Walker on this case?
Yeah, I think we need to know, what was the other contacts that he had? Was she the only Russian spy that he had contact with? And what is his, what is the conversations that he had with her handler, essentially, the former senator from Russia, Torshin? That's the guy who's the real. She's the, she is the agent.
Yes.
But he is the one who pulls all of the strings.
Yes.
And Walker has yet to answer any questions about his contact with Torshin. And I think that's incredibly important.
Well, the complaint is damning. They show some of the the conversation, tweets and otherwise between Torshin and Butin. It doesn't seem to be any question that she is doing duty for the motherland.
What about
Sheriff? And the thing is, just remember, Scott Walker was about to embark on. Obviously, he had been kind of running for president on our dime for quite some time. But he, Our American Revival, he had not announced yet. She was clearly embedded with the NRA. Scott Walker, is there an endorsement that a Republican in a primary wants more than the National Rifle Association endorsement? Absolutely not. He was going to do anything and everything that she said because this was an NRA, she had an existing relationship with the NRA. That was part of the whole reason that she was there. And I think that is I think those are things that we can't, I don't think that there are things that we can forget with this and that we have to keep pushing. And it's not going to keep pushing unless we keep pushing to put it in the media.
Yes.
Well, Larry, let me get one more of them out there then. What about Sheriff David A. Clark flew to Russia on the dime of Butina through her organization, Right to Bear Arms, toured an armament plant, complimented on his straight shooting. Do you think perhaps Sheriff David A. Clark offered a go-between between this Russian organization and the Trump campaign? We saw him out there stumping alongside Jeff Sessions all through the fall of 2016.
Yeah, without a doubt. David Clark does whatever Donald Trump wants him to do, and he is now, David Clark's livelihood is dependent on the checks that he gets from, Donald Trump's Super PAC America First and, the fake issue group that they have. There's no doubt that David Clark expected to be a big part in Donald Trump's operation. Unfortunately for David Clark, all of the different deaths that occurred in his cell while he was, not doing his job made it impossible for even Trump to put him in a position that required Senate approval. So, he never, I think there were also probably problems with Clark's background check. I mean, this guy's like dirty from top to bottom. There's
Scott,
no doubt.
But is
about
he
it.
Russian dirty?
Scott, I got one more for you. Our senator from Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, recently went over to Russia July 4th, celebrated America's birthday in Russia. Apparently came back, thought perhaps the sanctions, a little too much, no big deal. Wanted to get your impression on that particular visit and its timing.
Oh my God! I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, that's one of those ones where, like, I have to just do that. If that were a Democrat, can you imagine? ... Because it would be completely. I mean, we're in the middle of this giant fight with Russia because they hacked our elections, and Ron Johnson goes over there and says, basically, this isn't a big deal. That's insane.
At this point, what does it matter?
It's just insane. And, I mean, I guess we'll have to see. I will tell you, since Charles Franklin decided not to ask head-to-head questions in his poll today and instead ask a bunch of issue questions, I was surprised that he didn't ask more about, Wisconsin politicians and Russia and all that sort of thing. I mean, I know this Walker stuff's a little bit late, but that was interesting.
Late breaking story, always a good guess. Scot Ross, Executive Director, One Wisconsin Now, our buddy. Thank you for bringing the very earliest corrupting dollars from the NRA to Scott Walker to our attention. June 2nd, 1993. The good old days.
Thank you, Scott.
Absolutely. And don't forget, vote for Larry Vaughn. His kids were on that beach, too.
Well said, sir. Thank you, Scott Ross. Phone lines open, toll free to you. And we'll talk about those Marquette polling surveys just a little bit when we come back. We'll tease you at 844-967-2789.
The biggest fear that I and I think a lot of our supporters have is the outside money.
I think that I am familiar with the fact that you are going to ignore this particular problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass.
I love being governor.
Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Have you got your head in the clouds on how to manage IT for your enterprise? We can make your dreams a reality. With our enterprise cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting, we'll manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Consider Five Nines your personal enterprise IT solution. Enjoy technology. For more information, visit fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, I'm Daryl Ingram of News Talk 1510 WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, and I am the Director of Advertising and Marketing. The pride of our independent stands runs deep in all that we do here at the station. The thing that I know for sure is that you can count on the quality and independent production of client advertising, mirroring the quality and independence of our fine programming here at News Talk 1510. To learn more, contact me at 414-335-0851 or via email at daryl@newstalk1510am.com.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Jeff's Guitar Clinic is a multifaceted shop offering guitars, amplifiers, and all accessories, guitar lessons for all ages, and instrument repair of the highest quality. Jeff'sGuitar.com.
Scott Walker thinks Wisconsin should once again hire him as governor.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon.
This is a person who has not worked in the private sector since 1993.
You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP.
And has made his political career.
You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
By using divisive tactics to the benefit of his corporate donors.
First step is we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions. Because you divide and conquer.
Now he supports the largest publicly funded government subsidy of a foreign corporation in American history.
You know, they can go suck lemons.
And Scott Walker has yet to live up to his first campaign promise to create 250,000 jobs.
Is this a campaign promise? Something you want to be held to?
Absolutely.
Scott Walker, we the people are done sucking your lemons. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, streaming live on the YouTube and Facebook pages. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party line, talk or text 844-967-2789, like our pal Jeff. That was Scott P. Walker in the picture with the Russian spy. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
Thank you, Scot Ross, a.k.a. Larry Vaughn. Our good buddy and a fine guest, Executive Director, One Wisconsin Now. We appreciate him joining us. He always down for a little Walker bashing. Scott K. or P. Walker bashing, as the case may be. Dom, New Marquette University Law School polling out. Here's the headline.
What's the headline?
Nurse Ratchet. Leah Buchmer has thrust herself into the lead.
She turned the corner.
In the GOP primary. Well, she's had the endorsement of basically every Republican in the state, short of Scott Walker. She's got Toadette. She's got the kid, Matt or Alex. You know, they're interchangeable kids.
I thought there were one. Matt
Campaign
and Alex.
props. But anyways, Leah Buchmer now leading the race, at least amongst primary voters. She has a 2-point lead, well within the margin of error. And Tony Evers. He's the front runner, Dom, and I would say clearly the front runner. He is gaining strength in the polling.
He's pulling away from the pack.
We'll leave some meat on the bone for Charles Franklin in the happy hour, but we'll talk a little more about the New Marquette polling with you on the phones, 844-967-2789.
Wasn't true. It was a Scott Walker, a Scott P. Walker. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
Lifeless eyes, black eyes like a doll's eye.
I'm Jesse Pika-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, Save the Food, we're helping to stop food waste. Save the Food. For tips and recipes, visit SaveTheFood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 AM WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Candidate for Wisconsin Governor Kelda Roys contributed more than $350,000, which gives her about $264,000 more than any other Democrat. Scott Walker had about $5.9 million on hand as of June 30th. In the first half of this year, Walker raised more than twice as much money as all 8 Democrats combined. Outside this afternoon, mostly sunny with temperatures in the upper 70s, then mostly clear tonight, lows in the low 60s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny in Milwaukee, partly sunny in Madison with a 40% chance of rain. You're listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I'm always happy when the MU polling drops. And Dom, our friend Tammy Baldwin, don't see her much around here, but, you know, open invitation senator, talking about some legislation that polls well. Tammy Baldwin has rolled out legislation that would extend more Packer game broadcasts to northern Wisconsin. I can't wait for the Republican pushback on that one.
Come on.
As the article says, if all politics is local, then in Wisconsin, it's all about the Green Bay Packers. Senator Tammy Baldwin may have that in mind as she seeks re-election this November. Baldwin said Wednesday that she's introducing a bill to extend Packer game broadcast to counties in far northern Wisconsin that don't always get them because they're in media markets in Minnesota or Michigan. Who wants to get stuck with the Detroit Lions game?
What is the proposal? I mean, what is...
Like you're going to force cable networks to provide in-market... You know, if the Packers were playing and the Vikings were playing at the very same time.
What is it the state's role
and
who provides what?
It's not. This is purely Homer legislation that probably polls at about 99% approval in northern Wisconsin right now.
To what? Force local cable or whatever broadcast?
Whatever you got to do, I want my Packer game.
Come on. Okay.
I'm not saying it's a misuse of the legislative process, but as an FCC governed entity, good luck with that.
I would love to see the wording on that legislative proposal.
I'd love to see it come true.
No doubt.
Tammy easily win re-election. Now, we pointed out Leah Buchberg, now Nurse Ratchet, leading the polling, Dom. 2% over Kevin Nicholson. Now, well within the margin of error, but first time, that's the big headline, first time your girl Leah has been in the lead. And Dom, from Tammy Baldwin's perspective, I think Leah Buchmer a much more appealing opponent. She's so despicable.
Come on, how can she be despicable when she seems to be coming from behind, coming around the last bend? If she's not Barbaro, she could go finish that race.
All of right-wing talk radio is telling them, oh, come home for Leah. Do it. Like you did for Ted Cruz during the primary and the state elections here in Wisconsin. And then you voted for Donald Trump just like we told you to in the fall.
Nicholson.
I mean, those are some pliable listeners. Now, right-wing talk radio, Kevin Nicholson, what support he has, I strongly suspect, is attributable to many right-wing talk radio ads.
So why the falling support then?
Well, she won the convention at like 73%. She got Paul Ryan. She got Jim Sensenbrenner. I mean, she's been wrapping herself in the Trump flag. And, of course, Scott Walker. I stand with Scott Walker, even if he won't stand with me, right?
Nicholson, February-March poll, 28, June, 37, July, this most recent poll, at 32, whereas Vukmir was at 19, then in June, 32, and July, 34. Stepping it up.
That might be the uppermost peak of her favorability, or at least electability.
I'd really like to know, if any of the fall off of support for Kevin Nicholson is because of his
parents maxing out to Tammy Baldwin.
Not just that. I mean, that's not new news. The new news is that he wrote an op-ed and bitched about it and called
whined.
His parent. He whined. He's a big baby
whine
whiner.
sometimes. What am I going to say?
Come on. Well, then he should be prepared to fall in the polls.
I would say the whining did knock him down in the polls. Vukmir should be getting stronger. She's got all the support. She's got the Republicans running ads for her. She's got all the endorsements. What's that?
The whining absolutely knocked him down in the polls.
He's within the margin of error where he was the very last time, 32 to 34, or whatever the case may be, Dom.
Last time he was up by 5, and I think that was not clear. That may have been outside the margin of error.
Still a lot of undecided. What was his percentage then and now?
It was 37, now it's 32.
Okay, fair enough. Within the margin of error between the two polls. I'm not convinced that he's not winning. Because she is truly an unpalatable candidate.
Given,
I hope the Republicans select her.
That could be entirely the case.
Republicans, Leah Vukmir, she is so good. You guys should absolutely pick Leah. And I'll lay off the Nertz ratchet stuff in the fall. I promise.
No. Why would you do so? You not promise. Okay.
It's a secret.
Okay.
I promise, Republicans.
I promise. Your fingers are crossed. You can't do that.
Come on, they're not crossed. They always look. That's my girly finger. I broke that one in football. It always crosses.
Is that why your hands are so small, Donald?
My hands?
Huh?
I know you're not talking to me. Come on, man.
Hold them up. Oh, come
My
on.
hands are bigger than yours,
yeah,
little
but you're
man.
Like a foot taller than me. They should be.
Look at Andre the Giant through the glass there.
I can touch all 4 sides of a piece of paper.
You are a scary man.
As entertaining as people are finding the measurement of parts of our anatomy comparisons here on the radio, let's talk about the polling. Let's talk about the Dem gubernatorial race we mentioned. Tony Evers, the front runner. But, Dom, let's get that much out, and then we'll leave the rest for Charles Franklin at 5:05. So, Tony's the front runner. My guy, Tony Evers, the front runner, Tom.
Yeah, Tony.
Glad I buried hatchets with him and all that kind of stuff.
Started out in February at 18. Last month in June, he was at 25. And this poll, the Marquette University Law School poll, puts Tony Evers at 31.
Who's next, Dom? Just give the numbers, buddy.
Oh, we're going down? All right.
Just throw the numbers out there.
Well, let's go. Let's go in order here. Tied for second place, Crudy. Well, here's the bad news.
There is no second place. There is a field that has fallen, and Tony Evers now clearly the front runner at 31%.
Well, there is a second place, and there's a tie, and that is Malin Mitchell and Kathleen Weinhaut at 6. At 6!
At 20% of Tony's 31%. Less than 20%. I mean, mathematically, let's say every one of the rest of the field, because of the margin of error, doubled their percentage.
Hell, triple it.
triplet, you're still going to be about half of what Tony Evers is. Tony Evers, the presumptive nominee? Is it too early to start calling him the presumptive nominee?
I don't know. Matt Flynn rolled in at 5. Paul Soglin coming in at 4. And Mike McCabe, Kelda Royce tied at 3. Josh Pade pulling in a big fat 0.
I think I could have done at least that well.
You could have got a 0.
I
no
feel
doubt.
confident if I'd stayed in, I would be somewhere around 0. Here's what I would say. Tony Evers getting a little stronger in the polling. Matt Flynn, about the same. I mean, mathematically speaking, that's within the polling margin of error, 7 to 5%. I think that's roughly where he was before. The disappointments, Dom, at least according to this current polling, Mike McCabe, he's going the wrong direction.
Was at 6 in February, 7 in June, falls to 3 in July.
You know what's funny? Because I talked to a friend about the political stuff, and that person said to me, people will not crawl over hot coals to go vote for Tony Evers, but Mike McCabe supporters, they'll get out there. They will absolutely vote. They will crawl over hot coals to go vote for Mike McCabe. And we hear Mike McCabe talk about 2,500 volunteers.
How many events have you gone to where you haven't seen at least one person holding up a Mike McCabe?
Oh, everyone's...
Yeah, right? I mean...
They've all got the signs.
Yes.
I have seen him as the candidacy of Bernie Sanders. And, you know, I've mentioned it a few times. I'm not going to change the fact that I'm cheering for the guy. I'd like to think, in my heart of hearts, I'd like to think that we've overcome money in the political process, and you could just get out there in the car and drive around the state and shake hands and somehow win the primary. But I'm starting to become skeptical, especially predicated on a 3% outcome in this newest polling. And poor Kelda. I mean, I'd mentioned it before, Dom. I think she is strengthened as a candidate. She's 50% stronger than she was the last time around. And at this trajectory, somewhere in 2027, she should pass Tony Evers.
She went from 0 in February to 2 in June, up to 3 in July.
Kelda Royce is at 1/10 of Tony Evers' 31%, right? Last poll, that was a couple weeks ago, 2 to 3%. I mean, at least I guess she's moving up. But 3% is abysmal compared to 31%. Kelda Royce has $650,000.
$667,000 on hand, the most of any of the gubernatorial candidates.
I'm glad she does. I hope she spends it wisely, and I hope it's not too little too late for the sake of her candidacy, because way back in April, I thought she was getting stronger. I thought she was demonstrating. I mean, we saw it in the straw polls. We saw it in the insider events. We saw it at the second CD, the fifth CD. We saw it at the DPW. We saw it on Educators Amplified Gubernatorial Edition. She won that straw poll of teachers primarily. Mm-hmm. And then we did our sort of informal polling one day on the air, and she did pretty okay at that. You know what? We should do a poll, Dom. Not like a call-in, like an officious. I got to get someone to tell me how to capture emails, and you got to email me, you know, something where I can quantify it, not just take your word for it.
Well, we're going to have a poll.
We'll set up a poll by like next week.
By next week, yeah, we're going to tie it to. We're going to compete with Charles.
I guarantee here amongst the Devil's Advocates Radio audience and on the Greater Resistance Radio 1580 and 1510, we will not oversample Republicans. That I promise you. If we poll in an unscientific way, of course, I will not oversample Republicans.
We promise. You can join us, 844-967-2789. We'll get into more of the meat of the polling when Charles Franklin comes on.
But Paul Soglin also going down. He's got like $56K on hand. $50,000, not a bad chunk of money, right? But not nearly enough to get it done. $57,800, I think, precisely. And Feinhout, you know, she's modestly gained strength, second in this poll, but how much money she got on hand? Like
$21,000. Yep.
That's not going to get her done. I don't mean to be dismissive. You know, you and I love Senator Kathleen Feinhout.
Yes.
I've said a few times, if I could pluck a candidate and put her in the governor's chair, it would be Kathleen. But the elective process and her inability or unwillingness to raise money in the same way as some of these other candidates, I think, has been to her detriment.
844-967-2789. Bill from Oconomowoc, you are up. Thanks for calling, Bill. What do you think today?
Good afternoon. Do you think Tony Evers can beat Walker?
Can he, theoretically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. I think any of them could technically beat Walker. I think
Do you
the
think,
money's
though,
going to
they
be in.
have the money? Do they have the money?
Well, they don't have the money now, but again, I would also point that my understanding is a lot of the traditional Dem funders have stayed on the sideline while the primary works itself out. Once the primary is over and there is a singular Democratic candidate to go on and face Walker, I have no doubt that the progressives and the Dems and a good chunk of the independents are going to rally around that person, and I think some money will come in off the sidelines. I don't think it'll come anywhere near of what Walker's going to have in pocket, but I absolutely do think whoever that person is will be able to be competitive.
Do you think the $5 million that Walker has any Russian hands on it?
It's almost $6 million, and
most certainly,
probably.
Yeah, I mean, just speculating. No, probably not directly to his campaign bill, but he has shown himself a willing conduit recipient of NRA cash. Let's call it $3.5 million so far. So if he'll take $3.5 million from the NRA, the allegation against Donald Trump is he effectively took $32 million from the Russians through the NRA. You're talking about Russian money. If Scott Walker, other than the one donation he had to Our American Revival, like $1 million donor who does have ties to Russia, but does business, I believe, through Sony here in the United States, maybe not truly a Russian, but I'd look real closely at who's flowing that money through the NRA. Don't be shocked if the NRA as an organization is destroyed through its coordinated campaigning and money laundering on behalf of the Russians. I'd like to think the NRA, it's not going to be the gun issue that takes it down. It's going to be the treasonous treachery with the foreign power,
the conduit,
specifically Russia.
Yes.
And Scott Walker, he'll cash anybody's check.
Oh, don't you think Walker was the easiest fish they ever hooked? They caught Trump.
Yeah, but he was a minnow.
And they hooked a guy by the name of Walker.
But he was incredibly unelectable. I mean, this guy is so milquetoast. He is such a boring, poor candidate. He only plays because he gets propped up by right-wing talk radio here in the state of Wisconsin and millions of dollars of third-party spending and billionaire grandiose. But Scott Walker, other than being, the willing recipient of anybody's corrupted cash, and I mean, it's pay for play, man. He'll give you back the mining bill. He'll give you back a shield paint from liability for lead-based paint manufacturers. I mean, he'll give you unsecured loans. If you max out to his campaign, he is a giver back to you in spades. But other than cash and checks...
Don't you think he's an easy mark? Don't you think he's a super easy mark?
Well,
I mean, he is just the play for pay people's dream.
Well, Bill, you know how we know he's an easy mark? The guy had $40 million for a presidential campaign that lasted 71 days. He was burning $90,000 a day on MC Hammer's entourage.
And thanks for the call, Bill. And the mark wasn't, the Russians or his Republican adversaries. The mark, who marked Scott Walker? It was all of his suppliers. It was the guy setting up the stage. It was the vendor for the website. It was the printer. It was anybody that
Well,
Scott
he got
Walker
his. He stiffed some of them.
He did absolutely stiff some of them, but they were also
Settled
giving him some pretty big bills. You cannot burn through that much money, $90,000 a day. There was nobody around that campaign that said, man, what if we just spend $50,000 a day? We can go twice as long. Nobody said that because he was getting taken by everybody. The AV Club, they burned Walker.
When Scott Walker got out of the race, he was like $1.3 million in debt. He made it up by selling emails down the river, probably to groups like Cambridge Analytica. And, of course, Dom stiffing his vendors, making them settle for less than full balances. Now, if that was his personal credit, it'd be wrecked by actions like that. That would be, let's call it a derogatory. And I'm not quite sure if I'd be out there offering anything to the Scott Walker campaign team without cash up front. I wouldn't take the man's word for it. He's got a history. Come back with us. We got a history with Scott Walker. Devil's Advocates, 844-967-2789.
RELAX.
Our friendly staff is available 7 days a week to show you a variety of high-quality, local, and national brand pet foods. Be sure to visit our freezer area for a large selection of diets and bones. Bark and Scratch Outpost, 5835 West Blue Mound Road. Leashed pets are always welcome. At Bark and Scratch Outpost, we think outside the bag.
Come on down, you will see. We do it naturally. MilwaukeePetFood.com. Bark and Scratch Outpost.
Hi, I'm Becky from Bounce Milwaukee, and I want to be the first to invite you to our newest attraction, axe throwing at Fling Milwaukee. Bring your friends, date, co-workers, or family to experience the rush of throwing axes at Milwaukee's first indoor throwing arena. Open 6 days a week for corporate team building, bachelor and bachelorette parties, date night, or just a fun night out. More information at flingmilwaukee.com or 414-312-4357.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on 1510 AM WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Tune in Saturdays for Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk with Dr. Tim Slecker, 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the voice of the voiceless, champion of the working class. Earl Ingram's Saturday show is live from 12 to 3 p.m. Then Right Meets Left with the Joel and Joe Costa Show. Republican State Rep Joel Clayfish and Democratic State Rep Joe Costa Zamarupa go toe-to-toe from 3 to 4. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
I would like to thank you, President Trump. I also want to express my thanks to Governor Walker.
Foxconn CEO Terry Goh is thankful to the Republicans who delivered his $4.5 billion in corporate welfare.
Thank you to Foxconn.
Scott Walker thanks the foreign corporation who received the largest corporate welfare subsidy in history.
Thank you, Mr. President.
What about thanking the hardworking Wisconsin taxpayers you saddled with a generation of debt for a project that may never be paid back?
People should be rushing to me and patting my back and say, hey, thank you, Mr. Foxconn.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212 and tell him no thank you to corporate welfare, no thank you to environmental rollbacks, no thank you to a project that may never be paid back, no thank you to Foxconn. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
If you're sick, if you're sick, if you're sick, if you're sick of it. If you're sick, if you're sick, if you're sick of it.
The fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you're sick of it, you can give us a call. Let us know what you're thinking. 844-967 2789. You can be like Gary from Sussex. Hey, Gary, thanks for calling. Welcome back. What do you got today?
Well, it's 25% of your conservative listening. I got another friend to start listening to you guys. So
All right.
All right. I like you guys. If you would ever meet me on the street, you would invite me in, and we could sit there and probably have lunch together.
Don't be so sure, Gary.
Come on.
No,
Go ahead,
really
sir.
good.
I tease.
Okay. But the thing is that the Scott Walker, I love your bashing and stuff like that. I'm a Scott Walker defender. He does get money from the NRA. I am an NRA member for a very long time. You know that there's 300,000 since March 8th, 300,000 CCW permits issued in the state of Wisconsin. That means if there's 4 million people, including children, babies, moms, dads, grandmas, and grandpas, that's a lot of people, 300,000.
I got one of those, Gary.
I would take the money. And yes, he's a big supporter.
It had been reported prior that the NRA was a potential conduit for Russian money to the Trump campaign. Now, we don't see any evidence that happened to Scott Walker's campaign, but the fact that he was getting trolled by a Russian spy who's now being held without bail, we think that's newsworthy, Gary.
No, of course. But we have to get into the details and figure out what's all going on. I mean,
has Scott Walker provided Gary any details that you are satisfied with?
Well, I just started listening to this like today, so I really don't.
Walker will offer you no details, Gary.
Yeah.
Walker never.
I don't have a.
I'm sorry, Gary. I don't mean to keep interrupting. Walker never really explained away the campaign finance violations he was doing under John Doe 2. Now, they changed the laws, Gary, but he was corruptly coordinating with third-party groups in a fashion that was illegal under Wisconsin campaign finance law. There was prior precedent. He had been warned by the GAB. I have every belief if offered Russian money, Scott Walker would cash that check, Gary. Come back with us. More Garys, 844-967-2789.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country.
Do you love public education? Do you want to support your schools? Then you should support the people who make them work. You should support teachers and their unions. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, and when the school bell rings, it is crucial that teachers do not check their rights at the door. The ability to organize and advocate around issues that improve the quality of a teacher's workplace will increase opportunities for students and make schools safer for everyone. Stand with teachers, stand with WEAC Region 7.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Live via phone, he is former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel.
Firing Bob Mueller doesn't mean that the prosecution, the investigation goes away. Pardoning one individual does not mean that you undo everything that has been done before. So this notion that somehow by shutting down and by pardoning and by sort of stopping the process, you're also stopping the wheels of justice is simply, again, it's simply wrong.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 a.m. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
You are listening to 1510 a.m. WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 a.m. WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Russians, yes or no? Wildfire. I'm Michael Toscano.
Thank you. Do you
As reporters and camera crews were being ushered out of a photo opportunity at the White House this afternoon, President Trump was asked if Russia is still targeting the United States. Trump said no, but White House press secretary now says he was responding to something else.
The president said thank you very much and was saying no to answering questions.
Congressional Democrats say they are concerned President Trump may have promised or revealed something he should not have to Russian President Vladimir Putin during their meeting with no one but interpreters present, and they're calling for the U.S. interpreter to testify. State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert.
Is there any precedent for this? We've not been able to find that just yet. I can tell you there's no formal request to have the interpreter appear before any congressional committees.
Meanwhile, Connecticut Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal is calling on Republicans to join the efforts to get the government to repel the Russian efforts.
The red light is flashing, as the Director of National Security, Dan Coates, put it, much as it was before 9/11. We are in a 9/11 national emergency.
That massive wildfire burning near Yosemite National Park in Northern California has now burned through more than 17,000 acres, and Jim Roop tells us it's challenging the fire crews.
The so-called Ferguson fire grew more than 4,000 acres overnight, but the containment didn't grow an inch.
We're up to a total of 1,850 personnel now assigned to this fire.
CAL FIRE's Michael Whitaker says the inversion layer, the mountains trapping in all the heavy smoke, is making it difficult to use the water and retardant dropping aircraft, so they're relying on hand crews and 16 bulldozers to cut lines and create roads for fire trucks to get to the fronts of the fire. This is the largest fire burning in the state. The cause is still unknown. I'm Jim Roop.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the day 79 points higher. The S&P 500 rose 6, while the Nasdaq was down 0.5 point. I'm Michael Toscano.
Jeff's Guitar Clinic is a multifaceted shop offering guitars, amplifiers, and all accessories, guitar lessons for all ages, and instrument repair of the highest quality. Jeff'sGuitar.com.
J.D. Davis Funeral Home, located at 4803 West Burlott Street, is dedicated, dignified, and distinguished in serving you in your time of need. Direct cremation specials starting at a very low cost of $595. That does not include cremation permit or crematory fee. Traditional funeral packages starting at $1,995 with a 20-gauge metal casket included. Title 19, Milwaukee County General Assistance accepted. Call today, 414-444-8300.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Trapped in that cave in Thailand were released from the hospital today, looking and sounding healthy at a press conference, as we hear from Jonathan Miller.
And they told their stories of daring do. They told their stories of how they had realized that they were trapped down in there, how the initial panic had turned to how to survive, and great tales of camaraderie and trying to explore ways out of the cave system.
One boy had an apology for his parents, interpreted.
I also want to say sorry to my mom and dad. I didn't tell them I was going to go to the cave. I just said I was going to go for a practice round of football.
Which, of course, is soccer. The boys honored the Navy SEAL diver who died helping them set up the rescue.
They were only told of this 2 days ago, and they stood in front of a portrait of this man tonight. And
I'm Michael Toscano.
I'm Jesse Pikeholz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Person who's against these regulations to keep poop out of your water and poison out of your food. If, one of their offspring had a third arm coming out of their forehead.
I would just think that would be awkward. You'd be very top heavy.
But you would be one heck of a football player.
How would they make a helmet?
All you gotta do is cut a hole in the helmet for the hand to come through, and you could catch
but then
passes
you're
all over
elbowing
the
everybody in the face every time you walk around.
Wear an elbow pad. You'd be fine.
How would you see?
You would be a heck of a football player.
Would you be an arm unicorn?
414 Wisconsin, weekdays 2 to 3 p.m. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Scott Walker's campaign says he has not yet been contacted by the FBI about his connection to a young Russian woman who was arrested on Monday for being a spy and interfering with U.S. politics. A campaign aide would not say if Walker's discussions with Maria Butina were described in the court filing. Walker met the woman at a meeting of the National Rifle Association in 2015, and she later attended his campaign launch party in Waukesha for his short-lived presidential run. An affidavit from an FBI agent alleges that a Russian official asked Butina to write a report about a political event she was to attend, but it does not specifically say it was Walker's launch party. Mostly clear tonight, lows in the low 60s. You're listening to Resistance Radio.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back, Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. And Dom, breaking news, this show's getting better all the time.
Oh, my.
The salacious details about the Russian spy / honeypot now coming out. Dom, apparently there was some trading of sex for access involved, which begs the question. I sure do hope Gary from Sussex is still listening.
Gary!
Now, realizing Scott Walker, a happily married man, but when the, 25, 26-year-old, currently 29, this was in 2015. And if anyone has listened to this radio station long enough, they might have heard an ad from our fine sponsors, the People for People Corporation, talking about Scott Walker's beloved relationship with the NRA. That speech that the People for People Corporation incorporated into their messaging campaign to help educate Wisconsin voters, that speech was April 10th of 2015. That's when the Russian honeypot greeted Scott Walker, and Scott Walker greeted her back in Russian.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country.
Yep,
that was the very speech. Scott Walker on the stage, Butina looking up. I mean, she writes about it in her diary.
Almost longingly.
Almost like there's an attraction there. Some women attracted to power, especially if their Russian bosses go have sex and gain access, right?
CNN.
Was it true? It was a Scott Walker, Scott P. Walker. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
Prosecutors on Wednesday said Maria Butina should be held in jail until her trial because her life in the U.S. has been predicated on deception, including attempts to exchange sex for political access.
What? Do you think Scott Walker was offered sex? I mean, maybe not on the first date, but by the time she showed up at the campaign launch in Waukesha.
Maybe not with her words, but maybe with her eyes.
Just her eyes.
The 29-year-old alleged Russian spy relied on a web of people for her efforts to infiltrate Republican politics, prosecutors say, and they suspect her of planning to leave the country. She used state-sponsored spies in Russia for guidance, oligarchs for support and funding, and a 56-year-old American for political access. They added.
I thought Scott Walker was 50.
It's not Scott
Meet
Walker.
you at the Fister.
Butina, also known as Maria Butina, appeared in federal court Wednesday afternoon on charges of conspiracy and acting as an illegal foreign agent in the U.S. She entered a plea of not guilty to the charges during her hearing. Her attorney argued in court that she's not a flight risk and has been responding to various government investigations.
Then why are they giving her the Manafort treatment?
Well, let me get to it. Government lawyers warned that if Butina was released, She has been detained since her arrest this weekend. She is a flight risk and could be taken away by the Russian government. Butina's attorney agreed it was a risk, seemingly contradicting his earlier argument that she was not a flight risk, noting Russian consular offices were in the courtroom. The court went into recess so the attorney could confer with the Russian officials.
So these big Russian guys here to whisk her away, there's some likelihood, even according to her own attorney, they would whisk her away given the opportune.
The government presented a photo of Butina having dinner with a now expelled Russian that was taken by FBI surveillance. Butina's attorneys argued that she has been dealing with various investigations, including an FEC inquiry into campaign donations, the U.S. Attorney in South Dakota, and Senate inquiries. Butina aimed to set up back-channel communications between Russia and the Republican Party through the NRA, as well as between Russia and the Trump campaign, according to prosecutors and CNN reporting.
Now, Scott Walker, a failed presidential candidate. Now, maybe never move beyond the get-to-know-you stage with Scott Walker, but when you talk about, Republican insiders, Reince. What was Reince doing? I mean, really, he went on to become chief of staff for the president. He was the big cheese at the RNC, and he certainly had an established relationship with the NRA. Are we sure we're not talking about Reince?
I don't know. Her ultimate goal was to make American leadership more sympathetic to Russian interests, according to court filings. Prosecutors allege Wednesday her life in the U.S. has been predicated on deception, according to the court filing. Quote, because Butina has been exposed as an illegal agent of Russia, there is the grave risk that she will appeal to those within that government with whom she conspired to aid her escape from the United States.
What? Did I understand that correctly, Dom? There is concern that someone from the U.S. government could aid in her escape. Did I mishear you?
Perhaps. Let me read it one more time. Here's the quote from the filings. Because Butina has been exposed as an illegal agent of Russia, there is the grave risk that she will appeal to those within that government, I guess presumably Russia, with whom she conspired to aid her escape from the United States.
What about the people she apparently conspired with here, the relationships, some of them apparently sexual?
While in the U.S., prosecutors said Butina kept in touch with employees of the Russian FSB, the spy agency that succeeded the KGB. Oligarchs corresponded with her, including a billionaire who was called her funder, prosecutors said. She also had a private meal with a Russian diplomat who left the U.S. in March of 2018. And she worked closely with an unnamed Russian official whom CNN has identified as Alexander Torshin, a politician. At one point, he likened Butina to one member of a ring of Russian covert agents who were arrested in 2010. Here's his quote. You have upstaged Anna Chapman, who is often called a Russian honey trap, and whom the U.S. deported in a prisoner swap in 2010. Torshin applauded Butina's image following media coverage of her ties to politicians in the U.S. last year. According to prosecutors, Butina appeared to be operating in the same mold as Chapman. People who knew her described her as smart, aggressive, and attractive, qualities that helped her expand her network of American contacts. She even posed in stilettos and leather while brandishing guns for a Russian GQ magazine spread.
Are there photos offered?
I do not see any in the CNN article.
Do you think Scott Walker's got any of those photos on his hard drive?
Butina treated...
Or just the Rolodex?
Butina treated the relationship with the 56-year-old American as simply a necessary aspect of her activities.
So she was having transactional sex as a spy, effectively. Sex for access.
She secretly complained about the living situation, prosecutors said, and at one point offered sex in exchange for a position within a special interest organization. Torshin called her a daredevil girl when he took a photo of her near the U.S. Capitol on Trump's inauguration day. Butina came to the U.S. on a student visa, attended classes at American University, but prosecutors called the schooling a cover. Investigators became aware in the last week that Butina was planning to move money outside of the United States, had her D.C. apartment lease ending July, and the Americans she had developed the relationship with were attempting to rent a moving truck and purchase moving boxes 4 days ago. They also sent a wire transfer of about $3,500 to an account in Russia days earlier.
Putting down first month in security deposit on a place in Moscow, Dom?
Her attorney said that the government was notified last month that she intended to move.
Big move. Transatlantic move.
Far and far away.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's hard to believe the governor of the state of Wisconsin would find himself in an association with this woman known for aggressively trading her body
honeypot
for access to the politically powerful.
Do you like honeypot or honey trap? Now, they both are accurate descriptions, but I guess it depends on what you prefer.
Depends on whether you're the 56-year-old Peterson who got caught, then it's a honey trap.
It's a honeypot if all parties knowingly indulge and know what's going on. Because, of course, that's the point. I mean, this is like a I don't want to say a James Bond, more like an Austin Powers movie. I mean, yes, that's what spies do. They will
spy who shagged me.
They will have sex for information and access. Hell, some people have sex just for the hell of it. But when you are a talented,
but not when you're the 56-year-old guy that looks like a younger Bernie Sanders. He's no sex symbol, that guy.
Do you think?
Something was amiss. When he saw the pretty little Russian honeypot or honey trap, he should have said, something is amiss.
No,
she's far too attractive for me.
So sexy. Look at the ladies I get. All the Russian spies.
Come back with us.
You don't got to turn on the red light, Maria Butina.
Come back with us. Turning the entire state of Wisconsin red. 844-967-2789. We know what Scott Walker will turn on the red light for. Campaign money.
No doubt.
I mean, there's no doubt he's a whore, but just no one wants of his sexual favors. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates on the other side.
What do you think of these online reports that say you had a love child in college?
It's a bit nutty.
When takes for nuttin'?
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the Grads of Life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Scott Walker went on something of a Twitter storm, very Trumpian. What do you think this foretells for Scott Walker's future as the governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsinites have woken up. He talked about we need an optimistic message. How can you make people feel optimistic when you take away their health care? How can you make people optimistic when you take away the right to bargain? How can you make people feel optimistic when you're gerrymandering the heck out of districts?
Radio for the 99%.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us CCL Management at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Here at Bounce Milwaukee, we not only want families and friends to build connections, we also want to grow those connections in our community. That's why every Wednesday night from 5 to 8 p.m., we host Refuel the Resistance. It's a great chance to have a drink in our arcade bar, try something from our fantastic restaurant, connect with progressive activists, and support local organizations. For more information about Bounce Milwaukee's Refuel the Resistance, visit us at bouncemilwaukee.com or call 414-312-4357.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on enemy anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy 420. You can join us on the phones. 844-967-2789. You can get us on Twitter at Devil Radio. And of course on the web, Facebook and YouTube, streaming live right now.
I know you're working around the words of the song, but I'm so eager to point out who knew this song would be so literal.
Come on. That's the point. Let's get to some phone calls. We got some time in this shorter segment because Crudy talked so long last time. Mark from the SAC, you are up. Happy days, man. What do you got?
Happy days. I think Scott Walker should probably be a little bit concerned because he has not been contacted yet. And it's my understanding that usually the targets, they don't contact the targets when something is coming down. That if he was,
he might be the subject, but certainly not the target.
Well, I think either one is a little. He should be a little concerned about either one because she's going to sell somebody like Scott Walker out in a heartbeat. I mean,
do you think there's any concern? And just speculating here, a couple guys talking on the phone. Mark, do you think there's any concern that Scott Walker might be afflicted with the borscht? Isn't that the Russian word for STD?
I think it's a beet dish.
I don't know about that, but I think he definitely. There might be something going on there. It just seems like he's perfectly willing to go where the money is. Whether he was granted any sexual favors or not.
He would be in it for the money, not the sex.
For the money,
because sex does not advance his political ambition, but money could certainly advance Scott Walker's political ambition. And one must only look at his often told story, the meeting of the lovely Tonette, the first woman, first lady of the state of Wisconsin. The ever courageous. Write your phone number down on a bar napkin and slide it to her at a Saz's. I think that's the same way he made the Foxconn deal.
And that deal is just going south further and further. But we shall see, and maybe for his supporters it doesn't matter. I mean that he could, had definite evidence of him, sleeping with a dozen Russians. I don't think would matter to some of his supporters. But
no, they'd probably pat him on the back. The likelihood that there's a dozen human beings in this world that like to have sex with Scott Walker, while theoretically plausible, seems quite unlikely to me, Mark.
Thank you for the call, Mark. Again, the reporting, Patrick Marley and Trent Tetzloff in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. A quote from Walker, photos of Butina.
I did not
person
have sex with that woman. The Russian honeypot.
Were posted on the website of Our American Revival, a political group set up by Walker leading up to his presidential run. At the time, Walker's team frequently loaded photos onto the group's website of the governor posing with people who attended his events. I just ask the logical question. If it was something covert, why would we post that picture on the website? Walker said to reporters. It just seems ridiculous to think that would be the case. The reason we did is because every day we took hundreds of pictures with people who met us at events, and then we put them on a website so that people could take them off that website. Governor Scott Walker in his, hey, we just take pictures of everybody and post them. That's curious, Governor Walker. I would like to know, why did you greet her in Russian? Who told you to greet her in Russian? If it was just a random person coming up and taking a photo on a photo op line, how would you know? I presume that there was some sort of forethought. There was planning. Someone told you, hey, that's the Russian NRA lady. Isn't she sexy? Why don't you get her over here and get a picture? Because we love the NRA. And, of course, that NRA convention was in, I think it was Tennessee, right? That's where we actually pulled that sound.
The People for People Corporation pulled that sound to utilize in their educational advertising. Don?
Yes, and you can find that fine organization online at p4ppc.org. Let's get another caller in here, 844-967-2789. Ignacio, you're it. You got 90 seconds, my friend. What do you got?
Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Awesome.
It's a crazy, crazy world that we're living in. We have a president that's a nincompoop, it's a boob, he's a bozo, and yet everybody believes this guy. He comes out and says, oh, I misspoke.
I don't think anybody believes him, Ignacio. I don't think anybody believes him.
No, I have friends. I have friends that believe him. Are you kidding? I know, and they're not idiots, which is amazing because I'm like, dude, how could you believe this guy?
Come on. By definition, if they believe him, they are indeed idiots, Ignacio.
That's what I tell them, but they don't seem to believe me. I said, dude, you guys are crazy, man. What the hell's wrong with y'all?
Well, Ignacio, I guess I would have to say this. If that were to be the case, and Trump did, in fact, just use the wrong words, well, then he's weak. Because what is it about little Pooty Putin standing next to you that you get so flustered that you say the wrong word and entirely diss the meaning of the words you meant? Well, it's because you were nervous around Pooty Putin. So
it was the sexual tension.
Is that what it was?
It is.
I'm kind of feeling that right now.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more of you on the phones. And don't forget, Charles Franklin, Marquette University Law School polling. We go inside the numbers in the happy hour. But join us on the phones. Until then, 844-967-2789.
Having a great time.
You know, they can go suck lemons.
Hey, well, you're going to have to take me to dinner first.
I'm Jesse Pica-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Believe me, there is no collusion. Believe me.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job? Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
Only in the forest can you see this. And this. And this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
I didn't know it could do that!
Because one trip to the forest can spark a world of difference.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, canoeing, fishing, or camping. Or create your own adventure with family and friends, and you might just see this. Your moment's out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
In the studio, Reuben Harpo, the griot of our community.
The purpose for education is to keep the world from cheating you. And then I read about it in Ebony magazine by Lerone Bennett. Lerone said that, Dr. Mays said that if you're ignorant, the world will cheat you. And if you're weak, the world will kick you. And if you're a coward, the world will keep you running.
The Earl Ingram Show, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m., Saturdays, noon to 3 on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The city of Milwaukee will get $4 million from the state to help pay for replacement of lead pipes. The money will be used to help homeowners, schools, and daycare centers replace their old lead service lines. The money should cover the replacement of about 500 lead service lines. The $4 million is in addition to $2.6 million the city received from the state last year. Outside this afternoon, mostly sunny with temperatures in the upper 70s, then mostly clear tonight, lows in the low 60s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny in Milwaukee, partly sunny in Madison with a 40% chance of rain, highs tomorrow in the upper 70s. And for Friday, a 50% chance of rain with highs around 80 degrees in Milwaukee and the mid-70s in Madison. You're listening to Resistance Radio.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Krutz are...
Pierce piece at the Esquire. Scott Walker is part of Wisconsin politics that stinks of borscht. And just consider that in light of what I said before. But let's get to the phones first. 844-967-2789. Our pal, Scott from the Whitewater. Scott, part of the Walworth County Dems. Scott, welcome back, man. How you been?
Wonderful. Hey, I've got two conspiracy theories for you.
Lay them on me, brother.
Okay, the first is sometimes things just don't make sense. Paul Manafort going to bat for Trump does not make sense, that he's sitting in solitary confinement, holding tight to the soap for Donald Trump.
Well, Michael Cohen's not apparently holding tight to any soap. He apparently feeling quite liberated to speak about the former boss. I'm not convinced that Trump has the same sort of power over all the cast of characters. But, Scott, I suspect Manafort doesn't fear Trump. He fears the Russians.
I think he spent a lot of time in Russia. I think he's got a family over there, and that's what he's protecting.
You think Manafort does or Trump does?
I think Manafort does.
Are you talking about Scott Walker? I heard he had a love baby in college.
I don't know if that baby was Russian. Secondly, the reason here there's no pushback from the Republicans is simply due to the fact that the Russians hacked their servers too.
I have seen various reporting of that. Do you think they've got some compromising information on the entire Republican Party? Or do you think it could be the fact that... Go ahead. You tell me your theory first.
The internal conversations of the Republican Party talking about these stupid middle-class drones and union members voting for them while we suck the money out of their back pocket. These idiot Christians that are sending us all their money while we get rich.
Well,
All
Scott,
those kind of
I mean,
conversations that take
I don't
place.
know. I mean, I with regards to the hacked server or those kinds of information, let's remember these are some. I mean, if you read the complaint, the back and forth, the communications between Butina and her handler Torsion, they are dedicated soldiers to the cause. Right? So this isn't just about getting paid. This is about helping the motherland, right? So if you look at it in that context, I would say this. The danger, certainly that's a political, the back and forth. Look at some of the stuff that was released when the DNC was hacked. That's certainly some political bombs, let's call it that. But if there was coordination and there was activities planned between the NRA, the Republican Party, the RNC, and different outfits of Russian government, and that kind of information is on a server, that's the kind of stuff that gets you hung for treason. It's one thing to say bad things about your constituencies. It's a whole nother thing to have electronic proof of coordination with a foreign power to subvert American elections by one of the major political parties in the country. That would be my concern.
Nobody's getting hung here. I'd say castration at worst.
I believe that's why the Republicans are capitulating the way they are through this whole entire investigation.
Do you think that's why we see the number of retirements? I mean,
amongst Republican rank and file,
and very powerful.
It can't
Paul
all
Ryan.
just because they're losing their committee chairmanships.
Listen, they knew about this way before November of 2016. Mitch McConnell was aware of it. It was whispered around the halls of Congress, and it goes back to that old Reagan rule where we don't speak ill of our own, and we'll just keep this quiet. We'll soak it through, and we'll hide it. And
if the RNC servers were hacked, and that happened, presumably there would be electronic proof of that, right, Scott?
I think that's why the Republicans are just right now going all out. This is their Hail Mary. What's the difference? They either get hung up, not literally, figuratively. They're either hung up by what they did with the Russians, or they get hung up by what they said about their constituency, or they get hung out for not doing anything about it when they knew. So their only option is to bury it and hide it and make it go away.
I like the way you think, sir. Here's an example, perhaps, Scott, of the Republicans, sort of circling the wagons around one of their own. The statement, and I reference a PolitiFact here, PolitiFact Wisconsin, the statement is attributed to Leah Vukmer and Club for Growth, also a right-wing organization, but in this case, supportive of the candidacy of Nicholson, Kevin Nicholson, the primary opponent of Leah Vukmer. Well, they said, Club for Growth said, Leah Vukmer wrote a letter seeking leniency for a fellow state legislator convicted of sexual assault. And PolitiFact Wisconsin says, mostly true. How's that for circling the wagons around your Republican leadership, Dom? Mostly true that senatorial candidate Nurse Ratchet Leah Vukmer wrote a letter, and if you don't remember, we're talking about Bill Kramer. We're talking about the caucus leader amongst the Republicans. And don't forget, it was one of Ron Johnson, the newly Russian-loving Ron Johnson. It was one of his staffers. Ron knew, and Ron said, well, she didn't want to go to the police. So Ron let it pass. And Ron let Bill Kramer continue to serve. Newly reformed righty-whitey talker Charlie Sykes said that Bill Kramer was a ticking time bomb in the caucus, and sure enough, it blew up in their faces. And despite all that, Leah Vukmer circled the wagon and wrote a letter of, recommendation? A character reference on behalf of Kramer in 2014, a month after Kramer pled no contest to 2 counts of 4th-degree sexual assault. In a plea bargain, he was originally charged with 2 felonies. And despite all that, Leah Vukmir thought it opportune to stand with him.
The Republicans
That's your girl.
certainly have a history of circling the wagons and protecting their own. Kramer stayed in that caucus until the last possible minute. They were finally forced to vote him out.
We were in the room that day when they actually kicked Kramer out of the caucus.
Well, they kicked us out of the room prior to them going into that caucus.
And then they tore up all the ballots. The conviction stemmed from a 2011 incident outside a Republican Party event at a tavern. The victim told the court she feared Kramer might rape her after she resisted his advances, which including shoving her against a car, forcibly kissing her, putting her hands up her shirt, and grabbing her groin. The victim did not report it at the time, but came forward after Kramer allegedly groped a legislative aide's breast and bragged about his sexual prowess to a female lobbyist at a 2014 fundraiser in D.C. Here's what Vukmir wrote. Your girl. I have known Bill Kramer for over 12 years and consider him a friend. I have known Bill when he was drinking, and I have known Bill when he was not drinking. By the time of his sentencing, Bill would have been sober for 270 days. Being sober has had a profound impact on Bill for the better. I also think it's important to recognize that Bill became sober under his own volition. Bill became sober to improve his life, not because he was sent to a court-mandated program. Not because he was facing 2 felonies for sexual assault. I believe this change has improved Bill's life considerably. Now here's the analysis. Club for Growth spokesman Bob Pipkin defended the group's claim by referring us to an article about the disclosure of Vukmir's letter to the Wisconsin Gazette, which describes itself as a progressive alternative newspaper. Again, the quote, "We took the interpretation of a liberal Wisconsin newspaper. They interpreted it as leniency." A caption to the photo with the article says Vukmir sought leniency, although the headline in the first sentence of the article merely say Vukmir sent a letter supporting Kramer. Not seeking leniency per se, Dom. Matthias Google, a Vukmir campaign spokesman, told us the accusation that Leah wrote a letter asking for leniency is a blatant lie. She simply spoke about a colleague seeking help for addiction issues. Didn't she write that letter to the court seeking leniency on his behalf? I read on. But it's not as though Vukmir's letter would have been seen by the judge as urging a harsher sentence for Kramer rather than a lighter one. We also sought views from 2 lawyers based in Waukesha County, where Kramer is from and where the crime occurred. Criminal defense lawyer Jerome Budding, known for his work in the case made famous by the film Making a Murderer, said Vukmir's letter does seek leniency. I'm going to skip his quote. Paul Bucher, who does criminal defense work and is a former district attorney in Waukesha County, disagreed, saying subletters explicitly ask for leniency or no jail time, and Vukmir's doesn't. But even if it doesn't go as far as some, Vukmir's letter clearly was written to help Kramer.
Right.
And therefore, it's rated as a mostly true statement, once again, that Leah Vukmir, Nurse Ratched, wrote a letter seeking leniency for a fellow state legislator convicted of sexual assault.
And that
charged and convicted and kicked from the caucus, but that didn't stop your girl Leah from writing a letter of leniency on his behalf.
Leah. Remember Kramer showed up to his court hearing in a trench coat?
Yes, I do.
I mean, no! You're a pervert.
You look much less creepy that way when you show up in a full-length trench coat to an inside sentencing hearing. Do you think
terrible.
he was sweating booze out of every pore? Do you think it was to cover up the booze smell?
I don't know, but I'm just glad he's gone. And Vukmir, you don't write letters like that because you want him to, be thrown away or put away and throw away the key. That is the point of those letters.
He sobered himself up. It's all good now.
But that's what there's. Come on, man. Every attorney's going to tell you, hey, listen, before the court orders you to do this, you better do this. That's why he did it. Did he do it before the accusations? And
he hasn't gotten drunk and sexually assaulted any women that I'm aware of in almost, like a year, almost half a year.
He's turned his life around.
Haven't we all? Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates on the other side. Your call is always welcome here at 844-967-2789. Yes, Republicans defend their own under every frickin' circumstance.
When you're outside, we'll discuss whatever problem you have, okay?
What would you say you do here?
I'm proud to have stood shoulder to shoulder with Governor Walker.
I'm Senator Leah. I'm voting for Donald Trump.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call the number on a for sale sign?
Great questions. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you a home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust. Your agent will best find the home that fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from offer through closing day. And most home listing contracts stipulate that the seller's agent pays for the buyer's commission.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, save the food. We're helping to stop food waste. Save the food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's 3 big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on it anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Once again, the American public has some reading to do. In a 29-page indictment today, Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class. The Devil's Advocates, so relevant they have one foot in tomorrow.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, streaming live on the YouTube and Facebook pages, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and we take all callers, even you Republicans, 844-967-2789.
Republicans or Russians, did you say? I wasn't clear on that point.
Nowadays, isn't it kind of one and the same?
Haven't they merged the parties?
Yeah, they both love the red, right?
CCCP forever,
comrade. You know, you can't say Russia without USA.
Buddy, I'm going to have you read first, but Charlie Pierce at the Esquire magazine, Scott Walker is part of Wisconsin politics that stinks. A borscht. He's one of the many to get their photo taken with Maria Butina, alleged Russian agent, I'd say spy, who traded sex for access and has many longing memories of her first meeting with Scott Walker.
I'm going to jump down in the body.
Per her diary.
Charles Pierce talks about the FBI Cyber Division, but let's skip that. Let's keep this focused on Governor Walker.
Let's do.
It seems that there are hundreds of very weird and wonderful photos of Maria Butina, the Russian gun moll, whom the FBI busted Monday on criminal lobbying charges, floating around the inner boobs. I mean, really, check some of these pictures out. And then they show a picture, Charlie Pierce does, in the, what is this printed in? If I have the actual piece here.
Esquire?
Yes, thank you, Curdy. Esquire. That's Scott Walker, the Google-eyed homunculus hired by Koch Industries to manage their Midwest subsidiary, formerly known as the state of Wisconsin, and recently appointed Midwest sales director of the Foxconn company, grinning his fool head off with Miss Butina. Here's a quote from the Capital Times. Butina wrote on her Russian language blog that meeting Walker, quote, will remain in my memory forever.
My heart?
With genuine...
Doesn't always translate originally from the mother Russian.
Yeah. With genuine interest and ready to ask a question on the topic of Russian-American relations, I went to him. And then something happened that I did not expect. The first words in many, many days, in Russian. I heard from the future nominee in the U.S. presidency from the Republican Party, who, having learned that I, from Russia, with a smile said, hello. And during the conversation, he remembered another word. Thank you, Butina wrote. We talked about Russia.
Thank you. He's learned that in every language because he will cash checks in every language.
We talked about Russia. I did not hear any aggression towards our country, the president, or my compatriots, Butina wrote about her conversation with Walker. How to know? Maybe such meetings are the beginning of a new dialogue between Russia and the U.S. and back from the Cold War to the peaceful existence of the two great powers. Confronted with this memento of the lovely time they had together, Walker had his spokescritter issue the following lame-ass statement to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Was it Alex Zimmerman from the Republican Party, spokesweasel for the Republicans, Dom?
Brian Reisinger,
also a weasel,
said by email that while Walker was in Tennessee, he, quote, appeared in an atrium area while waiting to deliver his remarks, where the attendees had a chance to say hello. There were thousands of people at the convention, and many of them approached the governor and asked to say hello and take a photo with him. Now, Pierce, just a friendly guy, our Scotty. Something truly stinks of borscht in Wisconsin politics. Besides Walker, there are dozens of photos showing former Milwaukee County Sheriff and full-time Happy Meal Medal recipient David Clark.
Da, 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 da.
I'm loving it. Enjoying the hospitality in Moscow. And Wisconsin Senator Ron Shreds of Freedom Johnson was one of those senators who spent the past 4th of July in Russia. He, too, managed a lame-ass statement in the wake of the presidential debacle in Finland. Ms. Butina's travels were general all over the United States. Expect more embarrassing photos and lame-ass statements to come.
Do you think Scott Walker's been able to scrub the borscht smell off yet, Dom?
I'm not clear, but if you look That's not very great.
That's him in torsion, right?
That's not a great photo. Certainly doesn't look like an atrium, but I guess we'll take their word for it.
Okay, fair enough. So Scott Walker meets the Butina at the atrium the first time. You know, we've often quoted the sound of that speech given to the NRA. I appreciate my A+ rating as a governor from the NRA. I've cashed like $3.5 million in checks from them.
And the first check at $250 like 25 years ago. But yes, go ahead.
But that does not explain the fact that the Russian honeypot, the trading sex for access woman, was also in Waukesha when Scott Walker rolled out his presidential campaign.
Why was
that wasn't until
Russian
July.
Spy Butina in Waukesha at Governor Walker's rollout party? Why?
At his invitation, I would suspect, because that was not an open to the public event, Dom.
Right. You can't just walk in off the street and go there. You can't just do that. Someone has to coordinate that. A fair question for our fine Wisconsin journalist to ask Scott Walker, how did she end up in the room when you announced who
she's
invited her?
BIR. Very important Russian. Ha! 844-967-2789. That's the number you need. You know, we got more discussion inside the numbers, the polling. You know, currently, before the newest Russian honeypot story broke, Scott Walker modestly, like by a skosh, above water in his approval ratings in the newest Marquette University Law School polling. Do you think Republicans will admire him more or less?
Well, I would say this.
I've seen reporting that she traded sex for access, and she gained access to Scott Walker's presidential campaign launch.
A very fair question,
I'm
Michael.
just using ABC sort of logic.
1, 2, 3. Well, we know that she has had sex with unattractive men for access, so it would make sense that why stop with one?
Well, Tona also guilty of sex with an unattractive man. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Charles, I'm starting to lose it. Charles Franklin joins us next. Come back, we'll go inside the Marquette University Law School poll.
Our next comedian is from Russia.
No, I'm going to stay for a while. How about that? Freedom.
Bark and Scratch Outpost. Free local same-day delivery. That's right, free local same-day delivery from Origin, Stella, and Chewy's. Order all your favorite products online at MilwaukeePetFood.com. At Bark and Scratch Outpost, we think outside the bag.
Come on down, you will see. We do it naturally. MilwaukeePetFood.com. Bark and Scratch Outpost.
Hi, I'm Becky from Bounce Milwaukee, and I want to be the first to invite you to our newest attraction, axe throwing at Fling Milwaukee. Bring your friends, date, co-workers, or family to experience the rush of throwing axes at Milwaukee's first indoor throwing arena. Open 6 days a week for corporate team building, bachelor and bachelorette parties, date night, or just a fun night out. More information at flingmilwaukee.com or 414-312-4357.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 AM WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Addressing election meddling, Russian agent jailed. I'm Barbara Cusack. After the White House press secretary tried to clarify President Trump's no answer to reporters who asked him earlier today whether Russia is still targeting U.S. elections, The president addressed the meddling issue during an interview with CBS News. Trump was asked if he holds Russian President Putin responsible for meddling in the 2016 presidential election.
Well, I would, because he's in charge of the country, just like I consider myself to be responsible for things that happen in this country. So certainly, as the leader of a country, you would have to hold him responsible, yes.
Prosecutors say a 29-year-old gun rights activist, Maria Butina, suspected of being a covert Russian agent, was likely in contact with Kremlin operatives while living here in the U.S.
Butina did arrive here with her lawyers. She entered a plea of not guilty. She was wearing the customary orange prison jumpsuit upon her arrival.
Correspondent Sarah Murray reports in court her attorneys tried to make a case for her release pending trial.
Trying to make the case that she is not a government spy and she should have been released on her own recognizance. But obviously that case did not appear convincing to the judge, who has decided that Maria Butina is going to await trial in a jail cell.
Suspected shark attacks led to the closure of some New York Long Island beaches after a 12 and 13-year-old were bitten off Fire Island. Head lifeguard Craig Amarando says emergency responders made a startling discovery in treating one of the victims.
Not only was it a shark bite, but they found one of the teeth still inside the boy. So the boy was very brave. He was alert the whole time. He was scared, of course.
The Federal Reserve's latest Beige Book report finds manufacturers across the U.S. expressing concern about tariffs. It also finds many are reporting higher prices and disruptions in the supply chain in the wake of new trade policies. Stocks closed mostly higher, the Dow up 79, the S&P added 6, but the Nasdaq down nearly 1 point. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
There's to be a connection between when we eat and cancer risks.
According to researchers at the Barcelona Institute for Global Health, people who eat dinner before 9 at night have a 20% lower risk for breast and prostate cancer compared to people who ate after 10 o'clock or went right to bed after eating. The study was designed to find out if there was a relationship to when people ate and slept and the rate of cancer. Researchers say the timing of sleep affects our ability to metabolize food properly, which could also affect cancer rates. I'm John Stolness.
Senator Charles Schumer wants the federal government to do more in light of the growing number of drownings involving toddlers in the U.S. Schumer cited 2014 to 16 data from the CDC that shows 1,300 children 4 or younger died of drowning, with total deaths rising each year. The numbers show 436 of the victims were girls, 864 boys. I'm Barbara Cusack.
I'm Jesse Pica-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Ignacio, what do you got for us today?
Hey, I quit paying attention for like maybe one day, and all hell breaks loose. That goes to show me I got to pay attention every single day to your radio program, or else who knows what'll happen.
If you don't listen to the Devil's Advocates 3 hours every day, Nacho, you're missing a lot.
You got that right. I just learned that today. I turned it on and I'm listening, and you really just rocked my world today. I was just totally blown away.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
Totally blown away.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines.
A group of homeowners around the Foxconn site opened up a new front in their battle to keep their homes yesterday. The residents are asking a Racine County judge to overturn Mount Pleasant's decision to take the properties by declaring the area blighted. They say the blight designation was, quote, fraudulent, arbitrary, and capricious, and contrary to Wisconsin law. Outside this afternoon, mostly sunny with temperatures in the upper 70s, then mostly clear tonight, lows in the low 60s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny in Milwaukee, partly sunny in Madison with a 40% chance of rain. Highs tomorrow in the upper 70s. And for Friday, a 50% chance of rain with highs around 80 degrees in Milwaukee and the mid-70s in Madison. You're listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour, and I am happy to announce a new Marquette University Law School poll has dropped today, and we got the pollster extraordinaire joining us right now for the happy hour. He's Charles Franklin. He's a friend of ours. Charles, welcome back to the big show.
Good to be back. How you doing?
Good, Charles. Thank you.
Doing quite well, Charles, all things considered. Let's jump into it, though, man. I love polls. Charles, let's start near and dear to Crudy's heart, the Marquette University Law School polling results for the Democratic field. It's Tony Evers, and I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but Tony Evers, currently the front runner amongst named candidates. He's getting stronger, Charles.
He is. In this sample, 31% of Democratic primary voters say they'll vote for Evers. 38% say they don't know. And then everybody else, the other 7 candidates, are below 10%. And not much evidence that any of them are moving a lot over the last month or longer. Whereas with Evers, he started in March at 18%, was at 25 in June, and 31 now. So both because of his 31 versus single digits, and because of the consistent trend with him, I think you'd have to call him the clear front runner at this point. The thing that should keep the Evers folks up at night is that big 38% undecided, and the wide open question of whether the other 7 contain any candidates who might suddenly emerge and sort of consolidate the not Evers vote among them. But we've not seen any of that consolidation take place from March to June, or now from June to July.
Charles, what is the trend on the I don't know, currently sitting at 38%? What was that in your last couple of polls on this?
Yeah, it was 34 last time, and it was something bigger, 44 back in March. So, it came down by 10, and then it's bumped up by 4. It could be more Democrats beginning to tune into the race and saying they'll vote in the Democratic primary, but not yet having made up their minds.
Charles, just another way to illustrate the point, our colleagues over the Journal Sentinel, somebody took note of the fact if you took the combined field of Democrats, they do not equal Tony Evers' 31% support.
That's a good way to split it. You could call it roughly a third, 31 for Evers, 38 undecided. Of close to a third, and then the rest is the last third.
And even if you took the margin of error and put it on any of the candidates not last named Evers, effectively they'd be at 12% tops. So I'm calling him the front runner, the presumptive nominee. Charles, too early for that?
I think presumptive nominee is premature, but front runner is certainly well earned by him at this point. When you look at that 31 versus less than 10, the presumptive nominee, though, assumes that the 38 undecided will, at least a fair share of them, come to him. And we have seen in the past when there's a front runner and a whole lot of pack, sometimes something lets one of those pack members stand out. An event, a debate, maybe a campaign commercial or something that suddenly makes everybody that's not for the front runner focus on that guy. Here I have an alternative. And so I think, that could happen. But I've been waiting for the last two polls to see one of those PAC members start to show that kind of big momentum. And it's simply not here in the data so far. We're down to the last 4 weeks, folks. Time to make up your mind at some point.
Let's talk about the Senate race, the Republican side, the primary to be held between Leah Vukmir and Kevin Nicholson. Well, if there is a quote-unquote headline out of today's polling, Charles, it's the fact that Leah Vukmir has surged to a 2-point lead well within the margin of error.
Well within, but this is a trend that you can look at. Nicholson had a 9-point lead in March, 5 points in June, and now it's Vukmir by 2. Now, the margin of error is 7, so a 2-point lead is nothing. This is clearly a toss-up at this point. But there is a trend that you can see from poll to poll to poll with that gap narrowing between them and now slightly reversing. But just like on the Democratic side, there's 30% of Republican primary voters that say they haven't made up their mind. So here we've seen a lot more advertising, especially by outside groups, and yet there's a lot of indecision and a very close race. These last 4 weeks for the Republican side, I think we might see an especially heavy dose of advertising paid for by outside groups as well as the campaigns. But it could easily break either way when you look at what we see in the data at this point.
What about name recognition amongst the Republican senatorial candidates? Do people know who Kevin Nicholson is? Do people know who Leah Vukmir is? What was your impression from the polling, right, Charles?
Overall, not so much. 69% don't know Nicholson, 66% don't know Vukmir.
Wow.
But as you narrow it to just Republicans, and then narrow it again to Republican primary voters, it's still pretty big. 56 don't know Nicholson, 51 don't know Vukmir, but you can see that she picks up a bit of relative advantage there among GOP primary voters. And, by the way, on the Democratic side, among Democratic primary voters, Tony Evers is not known to 51%, and the rest even less known. So, actually, the symmetry between the two races in how many voters haven't tuned in yet, haven't paid attention, and haven't gotten to know these voters, again, just reinforces what I was saying earlier of how important these last 4 weeks are.
I guess the only point I was digging at, Charles, is at least I've heard Kevin Nicholson up on Right Wing Talk Radio through indirect spending or outside groups spending on his behalf, but I'm not sure how Kevin Nicholson, who's never run for office in the state of Wisconsin, would attribute any support in the polling were it not for these outside expenditures on his behalf.
I think the expenditures have been high, and clearly the gap between Nicholson not having run and Vukmir being a long-time state legislature and party activist is a contrast. When we look at people who say they don't have an opinion of either of these two candidates, then it's Nicholson that has the advantage in the vote. But among the people who know both of them, Vukmir does better. And so that's the other part here, is that as party folks get turned on by the race, it's looking like that helps Vukmir a bit among those who have developed an opinion of both candidates.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Charles Franklin, he's the director of the Marquette Law School poll. He joins us on the phone. A couple more minutes here, Charles. State of the state and incumbent ratings. Well, the number one incumbent I'm curious to know about, our Governor Scott Walker. What'd you find out about the approval, disapproval for Scott?
Yeah, he's at 47 approve, 45 disapprove. Both of those numbers are down, too, from last time. So we had a 2-point gap a month ago, 49-47, but now it's 47-45.
And still within the margin of error. And, of course, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin also in this poll. What'd you find there, Charles?
And inside the margin, but she's at 41 favorable, 40 unfavorable, so a point above Water. She had been just 2 points below Water, 41-43 last month. That's fairly typical of her to have relatively balanced numbers. For that matter, the governor usually has relatively balanced numbers. But in this case, Baldwin is now in positive territory for the first time in a couple of months.
Charles Franklin, our fine guest, pollster extraordinaire. Charles, I know you examined a lot of other issues, and we'd like to go inside the numbers with you. Can you stick around for a little bit longer, sir?
Of course I can.
All right.
Outstanding. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio Network, 1510 a.m. Milwaukee, Waukesha, 1580 a.m. Columbus, Madison. We'll be right back with our pal, Charles Franklin. Sorry, kind of stumbled on that. Charles Franklin, say it with authority, director of the Marquette Law School poll. We'll be right back.
Makes me feel alive. I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been playing hard.
The number's probably 28, 29, as high as 35. In fact, I even heard recently 42%.
J.D. Davis Funeral Home, located at 4803 West Burlott Street, is dedicated, dignified, and distinguished in serving you in your time of need. Direct cremation specials starting at a very low cost of $595. That does not include cremation permit or crematory fee. Traditional funeral packages starting at $1,995 with a 20-gauge metal casket included. Title 19, Milwaukee County General Assistance accepted. Call today, 414-444-8300.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call the number on a for sale sign?
Great questions. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you a home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust. Your agent will best find the home that fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from offer through closing day. And most home listing contracts stipulate that the seller's agent pays for the buyer's commission.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Tune in to The Resistance, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Start your weekday off with the Earl Ingram Show from 7 to 9 a.m. Next is the Stephanie Miller Show from 9 to 11. Then from 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's 414 Wisconsin. Then from 3 to 6, it's the Devil's Advocates. Mandatory listening. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
You've packed the smartphones, headphones, tablets, water snacks, cooler, sunscreen, bikes, skateboards, games, videos, sunglasses.
There's no room for people in here.
Just don't wimp out on the most important thing.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
No, seatbelts. Whether it's a long haul or short trip,
It's a win-win situation.
never give up until they buckle up. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates. They refuse to do math on the radio.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. If you miss any of this fine program, please go to the website. You can listen to or download interviews and podcasts at DominincRoot.com.
Dominic, we've got a fine guest. He is pollster extraordinaire Charles Franklin, director of the Marquette University Law School poll. He's remained. We appreciate the generosity of your time. Got to ask you about a few more of the issues you polled on today, or at least released the polling of today. Let's talk about Harley Davidson. It's been the target of a lot of tweets at minimum from Donald Trump. He's made some statements publicly haranguing the corporation for its threats to move offshore in response to tariffs. What did the people of the state of Wisconsin think about Harley Davidson and the tariff issue, Charles?
37% thought that Harley's move was because of the tariffs, but 47% thought that they would have moved the jobs regardless, and a fairly sizable 20-ish% that's left, 16%. Yeah, I can't do the math on the radio now. 16% said that they didn't know whether they would have moved. But you get a really big partisan split here. 67% of Republicans say those jobs would have gone anyway. Only 21 say it's the tariffs. Dems, though, it's 56 say it's the tariffs. But still, among Democrats, 31 say the jobs would have gone anyway. I think this reflects a mix of attitude towards Trump and tariffs on the one hand, but also the pretty widespread belief that manufacturing jobs are frequently outsourced, moved out of the country no matter what. That, of course, is part of Trump's appeal on that issue, and I think it's showing up in these numbers as well.
Charles, what about the Scott holes in the roads? What do Wisconsinites think about the state of the roadways in Wisconsin, sir?
Yeah, this is a really interesting result. We asked just, how would you rate the quality of the roads where you live? Excellent, good, fair, or poor? The first punchline is, when we asked that question, actually nobody said they didn't have an opinion about it. And then the split was 40% said excellent or good, but 59 said fair or poor. So the balance there is pretty negative. But when you break it down by region, there's a real divide. In the northern half or two-thirds of the state, call it half, it's 66% that rate the roads poor or fair. And in the South, in the Southeast, it's only 52%. South and Southeast are about evenly split, 48-52. But in the North, it's just 34 good, excellent, or good, 66% fair or poor. That's the kind of regional divide that we're seeing in the state, with folks in the North and the West thinking their situation's not as good as folks in the South and Southeast do.
Charles Franklin, Marquette University Law School poll. Just a few minutes left in this segment. I want to get your thoughts. What are people saying about Foxconn? Has it changed at all from the last poll?
It's not changed very much. Where we see any kind of trend, it's a matter of a single-digit percentage changes. I think the big point there is still more people think that we're spending more money than it's worth by a 46-39 margin. Majority, 53%, think it'll help the Milwaukee area. But back to that divide that we were just talking about, will it help businesses in your area? Only 30% think it will, 58% think it won't. And back to that northern area of the state, from Green Bay to Wausau to Eau Claire and down to La Crosse and up to Superior, there the numbers are in the 60s and even the 70s in the north and west, saying it's not going to help their areas. Now, we had already had the announcement of a Foxconn facility in Green Bay before our poll was done. This Monday, Foxconn announced another facility in Eau Claire. So it's very clear that this issue is front and center, and we're going to see if these developments and the promises that are going with them change people's minds. But to this point, the divide is 2-to-1 or even 3-to-1 that you're not going to benefit if you're in the northern or western part of the state.
Charles, we know you got to jump out in about a minute, but I got to ask you, you polled on the abortion question. Seems quite pertinent considering the Supreme Court justice up for nomination. Charles, what did Wisconsinites say on the issue of abortion?
Exactly. 27% said abortion should be legal in all cases, 36% legal in most, 18% illegal in most, and 11% illegal in all. That's not much changed over the last 6 years. It's ranged by plus or minus about 4 points in each of those categories without any major trend. There is, of course, a partisan divide there. And the real difficulty is, what does legal in most or illegal in most really mean when you come to some of the restrictions on abortion that have been passed in the state recently, like a 20-week abortion ban or required ultrasounds.
Charles Franklin, our fine guest, thank you so much from the Marquette University Law School poll. Charles, we'll catch you again real soon, I suspect.
I'll talk to you in August.
All right, thank you, Charles.
Outstanding. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Going to break, coming back with you on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Well, you are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Ooh, I just felt a trickle down. No, I don't recall doing it.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
There have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Once again, the American public has some reading to do. In a 29-page indictment today, Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Candidate for Wisconsin Governor Kelda Roys contributed more than $350,000 to her campaign fund and now has the most money available among the Democrats in the race. Roys had about $668,000 on hand as of June 30th, which gives her about $264,000 more than any other Democrat. Scott Walker had about $5.9 million on hand as of June 30th. In the first half of this year, Walker raised more than twice as much money as all 8 Democrats combined. Outside this afternoon, mostly sunny with temperatures in the upper 70s, then mostly clear tonight, lows in the low 60s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny in Milwaukee, partly sunny in Madison with a 40% chance of rain. You're listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. In the midst of the happy hour, happy to have hosted Charles Franklin, director of the Marquette Law School poll. Always a fine guest. We appreciate him joining the Devil's Advocates seemingly every time a poll drops. I feel quite honored, Dom. One topic we didn't get to with Charles, ran out of time. I feel bad. Trump. The Trump job approval rating in the newest Marquette University Law School poll. Dom, the broad numbers, Trump has a 42% approval rating and a 50% disapproval rating. That seems way too high to me. In June, his approval was 44% with 50% disapproving. But partisans are deeply divided on Trump's job performance. Dom, amongst Republicans, Donald Trump's job approval by party ID Republicans, they love them some Trump. They love them some Russian colluding.
Come on.
You know what, grabbing.
Grab him by the presidency.
86% approval, Trump amongst Republicans. Disapproval, 8%. Now, contrast that with Democratic opinions on Donald Trump. 3% approval for Donald Trump's job. Democrats at 3%. That seems much closer to where it should be, and very similar, sadly, to Kelda Royce's current ratings in the gubernatorial poll.
Oh, damn.
Independents approve of Donald Trump's performance not so much. 28% of independents approve, 45% disapprove. Contrast that with the 93% of Democrats that disapprove of Trump's job. And what about the immigration issue, Dom? You got that one?
Immigration, 40% approve, 53% disapprove of his immigration. That's of the overall. If you break it down,
he even loses some Republicans on the immigration issue, doesn't he, Dom?
Break it down by party ID. Republicans, 74% approve of Trump's handling of the issue of immigration, while 17% disapprove. Democrats, 4% approve, 91% disapprove. And independents on the immigration, 37% approve, 55% disapprove.
So he's got more support amongst independents on his immigration policies than his job performance overall. That seems strange to me.
And but that's a strange number, right? He's also got a higher disapproval on the immigration as he does on his job performance overall.
One last big question, Dom. What about the enthusiasm? I know you're always enthusiastic, but what about enthusiasm for voting?
Overall, 58% of registered voters say they are very enthusiastic about voting in this year's elections.
So one or two of the co-hosts on the show is enthusiastic. I wonder which one.
27% somewhat enthusiastic. Probably counts both of us. 12% either not at all, not very, or not at all enthusiastic. To break it down by party ID, among Republicans, 62% very enthusiastic, and Dems, 69% are very enthusiastic.
Dom, Dems are always enthusiastic for 69.
Among independents, 51% say they're enthusiastic about voting this year. So there you go. Marquette University Law School poll. Thank you, Charles Franklin.
Currently, an enthusiasm gap that favors Democrats, but apparently not amongst this very broad Democratic field, although Tony Evers now clearly the front runner, if not the anointed presumptive nominee at this point.
So Donald Trump, this poll was taken, and let me see, I thought I broke it down here when specifically. Conducted
before the
July
Helsinki
11th,
summit.
July 11th through July 15th of this past week. Included 800 registered voters, pretty large margins of error. So yes, the point being, this was certainly before today, and what you thought with the walk back yesterday was walk back again. I'm not quite sure.
Are you talking about Donald Trump's walking back, whether or not the Russians targeted us, whether or not we can believe our own intelligence agencies and their conclusions that the Russians targeted us? What part's he walking back today?
I don't stand by anything. I just, you can take it the way you want.
Yeah, he just says words. Let's start. At the beginning of it, he had a meeting today, and prior to that, people were peppering him with questions. One of the reporters...
Are you sure it's a meeting and not just people passing in an atrium taking photos?
I'm pretty sure they're all sitting down around a nice big table.
Oh, that's the definition of a meeting according to the Walker team, but please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's right. Donald Trump. It's kind of hectic here. We pulled the sound, and this is all over the news today, so you can find this out there. Donald Trump asked by a reporter, is Russia still targeting us? And you can hear Donald Trump saying, thank you, thank you. It's a little harder to hear right at the end. He says, no. Let's play cut one.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Right,
thank you.
Your way out. Is Russia Is Russia still targeting the U.S., Mr. President?
Thank you very
let's
much.
go.
No. Thank you very much. No. That's what he said. Then he actually followed up with another one or two no's after that.
He meant, no, I'm not going to answer your damn questions, crooked media.
Is that what he meant? Because that's
what Sarah Huckabee Sanders claims he meant, right?
That's exactly true. I got two cut fives. The second cut five, Sarah Sanders, is Russia still meddling? Here was her reply to Trump's response. So let's remember, Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, literally said, the lights are on, we're flashing, they're doing it now. Asked, he said, no, thank you, no. Here's what Sarah Sanders, how she tried to, back, yes, the second one.
Walk it back,
spin it, if you were. Is Russia still meddling? The second one.
Earlier, Cecilia asked the president Is Russia still targeting the U.S.? He said no. Is that what the president actually believes? Did he understand the question? And is his position that no, Russia is not doing anything to interfere or meddle in the 2018 election?
I had a chance to speak with the president after those comments, and the president said thank you very much and was saying no to answering questions. The president and his administration are working very hard to make sure that Russia is unable to meddle in our elections, as they have done in the past and as we have stated.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
Dom, she doesn't answer questions either. Why doesn't she just say no from the podium?
Yes, Donald Trump, very strong. Let's hear Donald Trump telling us how strong he was. Easy to do now that you're off the playground and the bully's no longer there. Why don't you tell us all the things you would have done if you had the chance? Let's do cut 2.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Make your way out. Can you just
We're doing very well. We are doing very well, and we're doing very well, probably as well as anybody has ever done with Russia. And there's been no president ever as tough as I have been on Russia. All you have to do is look at the numbers, look at what we've done, look at sanctions, look at ambassadors not there, look, unfortunately, at what happened in Syria recently. And I think President Putin knows that better than anybody, certainly a lot better than the media. He understands it, and he's not happy about it. And he shouldn't be happy about it, because there's never been a president as tough on Russia as I have been.
Setting aside all my words and actions, I'm really tough.
Yeah, just look at the numbers. I'm so tough. If I sit here and tell you how tough I am, and I say it over and over and over again, I'm tough, I'm tough, I'm tough. Nobody's as tough. Sooner or later, you'll believe me, right? Right? Because I'm Donald Trump, and I'm used to getting my way.
You've been telling me your whole life you're cool. I never believed it.
Let's do cut number 7. Sarah Sanders, again, asks the question, as Dan Coates, I believe the reporter brings it up, is this threat still ongoing?
I just want to clarify what you just said. Dan Coates said point blank the threat is still ongoing from Russia. Does this White House believe that currently this threat is still ongoing?
Certainly, like I just said, we believe that the threat still exists, which is why we are taking steps to prevent it. Again, you wouldn't go through that lengthy process if you weren't.
Strong, powerful.
So strong.
I'm not clear what steps we're going through. The long process.
Oh, we have steps. You want to hear the steps? Let's
sure.
play the steps.
Lay the steps on me, man.
Cut number 6.
So he does believe it's going on.
Well, since there's currently not an election today, not specifically, but we certainly believe that we are taking steps to make sure they can't do it again. Unlike previous administrations, this president is actually taking bold action and reform to make sure it doesn't happen again. But he does believe that they would target certainly U.S. elections again.
Between the president and the DNI coach who said the red lights are blinking on this topic.
No, as I just said, that's why we're taking steps to ensure that these things don't happen again. We wouldn't actually spend as much time and effort as we are if we didn't believe that they were still looking at us. From the beginning of his administration, President Trump has actually taken action to defend our election system from meddling and interference. I'm going to read through a few of the things that we're doing.
Here we go,
In May of 2017, President Trump signed an executive order to strengthen and review the cybersecurity of our nation and its critical infrastructure. The Department of Homeland Security has taken the lead in working with all 50 states, local governments, and private companies to improve election security. DHS has increased coordination among all election partners. 34 states, 52 county and local governments, and 5 election companies receive cybersecurity scans regularly from DHS. DHS plans to provide on-site risk and vulnerability assessments to all states that request it. So far, 18 states have requested this assessment. A new pilot program was launched to increase rapid response capabilities on Election Day, and in 2017, on-site cybersecurity support was provided. In March of 2018, Congress provided the Election Assistance Commission with $380 million in funding for election assistance grants to states. These are steps that we've taken to prevent it from happening. These are steps that we've taken because we see that there's a threat there. Cecilia.
Thank you, Sarah.
There you go. All the steps that are taken. But the question is, of course, did Donald Trump collude with those folks? Would we have to take those steps had your boss not engaged through all the many different folks in his campaign and in his inner circle? Would we even be here asking these questions, talking about this specifically, if Donald Trump, the president, your boss, actually had the spine to stand up and talk to the bully to his face and tell him, hell no, we will not stand for this. Hell no, this is not allowed. Don't ever do that again. And here are the sanctions. No, he didn't do that. He came back. He had his tail between his legs. He cowered like a little lost, scared puppy, and then all of a sudden got a spine and got all brave once he got back to the States. Come on, this is an absolute embarrassment. Anybody who says making America great again, putting America first, come on, Republicans and conservatives. How does Donald Trump's actions in the last 48 hours do any of those things?
You know, I had an answer, but you filibustered for so long. I think I forgot my point. Step by step. We'll take you to the quitting time right here on the Devil's Advocates, Wisconsin's only resistance radio network. 844-967-2789. Call me.
Step by step.
Strong, powerful. There's been no president ever as tough as I have been on Russia. Very powerful.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates.
My Congresswoman Gwen Moore.
I think that you guys are filling a very important space. I think African Americans consume radio at a very high rate, and they really rely on radio for information. And so, word of warning to all those candidates out there, don't ignore these inexpensive ways to advertise.
Well, wait until we get our FM. They're going to get more expensive all the time.
Radio for the 99%.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call the number on a for sale sign?
Great questions.
First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you a home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust. Your agent will best find the home that fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from offer through closing day. And most home listing contracts stipulate that the seller's agent pays for the buyer's commission.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. Damn, time flies when you're having fun. You can join us, though, at 844-967-2789.
Dom, I listened. You ranted. You raved. You filibustered. You just don't understand.
Oh, yeah?
You're not smart enough.
No?
You know, if you were a little more intelligent, you'd have thought Donald Trump did an outstanding job. Just ask Donald Trump. Kyle Bullock at thehill.com reports President Trump said in an early morning tweet, isn't it always a tweet, on Wednesday that people at the higher ends of the intelligence loved this press conference performance alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin in Finland, which was widely condemned. So many people at the higher ends of intelligence loved my press conference performance in Helsinki. Putin and I discussed many important subjects at our early meeting. We got along well, which truly bothered many haters who wanted to see a boxing match. Big results will come, exclamation point. Big results, bigly, Dom. Trump sparked a firestorm on Monday when he blamed the U.S. for straining relations between Washington and Moscow and seemed to accept Putin's denial that the Kremlin attempted to meddle in the 2016 presidential.
No. I said would. I should have said wouldn't. See, just minor difference.
And I said no, but I meant no questions. I mean, if you stupid people would just listen a little more closely, Dom.
Like the intelligent ones that believe
the intelligence ones.
It's only the intelligent people that believe Donald Trump, and it's all of us ignorant. You know, what does he call it? Trump derangement syndrome? I think he actually tweeted that out today. Like what? If we don't go along with the BS that you're shoveling, here's the quote from his tweet. Some people hate, capitalized hate, the fact that I got along well with President Putin of Russia. They would rather go to war than see this. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. No, Donald, we don't hate that you got along with Russia. We hate that you're in the pockets of Russia. We hate that when you sit next to the man, you defend them and call us foolish and call the Americans stupid and blame us. You blame us for the goings-on in the world and our relationship with Russia. Nothing to do with what they do. That's what I hate. I can't speak for you.
You know what I would tell Taylor Trump? Shake it off. Haters gonna hate Trump.
Haters gonna hate Trump.
Shake it off. Shake it off. 844-967-2789. You wanted to go elsewhere. Yes.
I just want to break some news.
Us.
Richard Marks actually came out and tweeted that he meant to say he would not be right there waiting for you. He actually did come out and tweet that. And I mean, both stories have broken the same day. That's fantastic.
Richard Marks. If we can't include a little Richard Marks tweeting along with the Trump tweeting, Tom, the show would not be complete.
It's an embarrassment, and I love it. I get on the Facebooks and the socials with some friends of mine, and the conservatives and Republicans.
Like real friends or Facebook and social friends?
Literal friends, guys that I know, people that I know. And I know there's just some, call them crapsters in the audience. You know people
some stirs of the pot.
They like to troll a little bit. I don't know if they necessarily believe it, but boy, they sure love to get a reaction out of folks. So I understand
Trump
that.
owns devils. We're talking to you, Bob.
So I put it out there, and I always say at the end of these arguments, I don't always, but I try to remember, hey, anytime we're on the air, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. The Devil's Advocate. You can call. We don't screen the calls. Brian, do we screen our callers?
Yes. If you have a name and where you're calling from, you get to get through.
Okay. We do screen our
But
callers.
only if he's not eating fourth meal during the show in there.
I usually shove a bunch of it to the side so they can understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
But by the way, whenever a conservative caller calls, I say thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
And we do. And I want to have these conversations, the communications. All the keyboard kings out there, pick up the phone. Have a conversation, a back and forth. It takes so long to type for me to show you how wrong you really are.
Here's the problem with that, Dom. Most that would call in, the trolls, if you will, they don't want to expend so much time dialing the international codes in from Russia.
All you got to do is hit a 1 and another 3-digit number, right? It's not that hard.
Actually, we've had some international calls from Germany and from, they got to use the local number, 414-369-6005. But we've also had English calls as well.
So all my comrades out there, all you Trump-loving, Russian-loving, I mean, what would Ronald Reagan say? I mean, hell, what would Bush say?
I have no idea.
Ronald Reagan would have cheered against the American college kids in the Miracle on Ice. Damn it!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. I talked to Mr. Trump. He talked to Mr. Putin. He said it wasn't him.
I meant do tear down. Don't. Yeah. I don't recall.
Darth Vader. I meant I wasn't your father. Thank you to all our fine guests, and I mean it. Scot Ross, Executive Director, One Wisconsin Now. Of course, our friend pollster extraordinaire Charles Franklin, Director of the Marquette University Law School poll. Always love it when some law school poll drops right here in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you all for listening. We are the Devil's Advocates. 2 cool guys. Self-assessment. Well, 1.5 cool guys.
Oh, you're not that big, man.
I'm the 1.5.
You're the 2.
You're not that cool. Thanks for
listening. I am very sweaty.
We'll do it again tomorrow on this bat channel. You better tune in. We appreciate when you do so. 3 hours each and every day.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that.
I think that I am familiar with the fact that you are going to ignore this particular problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison.